Hello, this video is going to be a very brief demonstration on how to use SPSS in syntax. So the first thing we do is we open SPSS. When you open it, you'll usually get a Unicode message. You just close that. This is the other window that usually opens with SPSS, so if you already have a data set, this is how you can open your other data set. In this case, we're creating a data set, so we don't need this window. So we close that out. And this is our output window, but we'll get there. So this is the main window that you have in SPSS. This view is called the data view, and you can see across the top it says VAR, just short for variable. So this is where your variables are, and 1 through however many cases you have, this is where your cases are. The case is basically another word for a participant. So all of these variables across 1 are all variables for participant number 1, and this is participant number 2, participant number 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So the next window we need to become familiar with is variable view. And you can see you can tab between the two of them down here. So you go to variable view, and what you'll notice is you still have the 1 through however many here, but what they represent now in this case is a variable, not a case. So basically you have name of the variable, type of variable, and this is basically whether it's a numeric variable or a string, i.e. like a word variable. Decimals, how many decimal places do you want, a label. Typically the name is going to be a very short version, and the label is a more expanded version of what the variable is assessing. And all this other stuff you would talk about in more advanced classes. So once we have a basic understanding of that information, the next thing is deciding how you want to create your variable. You can go in here and you can start here and type in variable 1, in which case it populates all this information after you've named it. We aren't going to be using any decimals, so we just want to click down here and go down to 0. On any of these cases, on any of the decimals, if you click in this general area, it'll automatically bring up this up and down button, so you can go up or down whichever you need to do. So if you have a variable where you know you have decimals, you can just go in there and edit it. The other option that you have is you can actually just start typing in your numbers, and it'll automatically populate that information. So what you do then is you'd go back over here and you would adjust all the information after you've typed in your variables. It's up to you on how you want to do that. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and start with the variable view and enter the information there. So the first variable is actually going to be group. We just type over that, and we want our decimals at 0. The second one is going to be DV, and we want this one also to be at 0. We go back to data view now that we've got our variables set the way we want them. And now we're going to type in our data. I'm using a sheet that was provided by my instructor, so that's where the numbers are coming from. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the next 6 are 2s. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then for the DVs, we go back and we have 54, 44, 43, 34, 67, 87, 67, 55, 45, 66, 65, and 67. So now those are all programmed in. So our next step is going to be running descriptives. So there are 2 ways that we can get the output, but right now there's one main way to get to that. So once this is in, we're going to go up to Analyze, go to Descriptive Statistics, and then within Descriptives, we go to Descriptives. So right now, the main thing we want to work with is our DV. So click on DV, click the arrow, and it's over here. So the next thing we want to do is click on Options, because this is where we actually get to select what sort of statistics, what numbers we want SPSS to produce. So we want mean, we want standard deviation, we want variance, we want range, we want minimum, maximum, kurtosis, and skewness. Any of these that we didn't want or that were pre-programmed in, we can unclick them. So that's just a very simple, straightforward way of getting that. Once you're to this step, normally you would click OK, and that will go ahead and produce your output. But in this case, we really want to start working with syntax. So instead of clicking OK, we're going to click Paste. And you can see that this has opened up a whole new window. Before we get started on actually running things out of syntax, we want to go up to the first page, or the first line rather, and we want to enter a new name. So for me, I'm going to put EPSY 6010 SPSS example. And I just like having space between the outputs so that way I can see what's going on. So the next step is, once we've got this in here, what we want to do is highlight the text that we want to work with, and then we click this green arrow, which is called the Run button, and you can see the little message underneath of it says Run. So we hit Run once, and then our output window pops up, and our output now gives us, we have 12 cases, the range is 53 on the DV, and the minimum value on DV is 34, 87 for max, and so on and so forth. So now what we want to do is we want to go back to our syntax, and what we want to do is we want to now enter a new code so that we can generate the descriptive statistics for each group. So I'm going to put a space in. The first thing we want is temporary, because we do not want to permanently sort this group. So we type in temporary. Next, we are going to type in select if, go up one, select if, and you can see that it populates it, so you don't have to keep typing if you don't want to keep typing. Select if, and then what we want to do is group equals 1. And it seems like that would be where you stop, but it's not. You want to make sure you hit the period, because if you don't hit the period, it won't run it correctly. And we hit enter. And the next thing we want is descriptives. You can see it pops up. And then type in variables. And then we hit enter. And we want DV is the variable that we're working with. And you can check always against the one that SPSS created, so that if you're not sure what's going on, you can always see that. That will help you kind of follow what you need to do. So next we have backslash statistics equals, and in this case it's going to be faster for you to just highlight, copy, and that way you know that you've got all of the statistics you need. So once we're here, go through and highlight it again, and we hit our Run button, which is this green arrow, and we maximize that, and now you can see this was our original output, this is our new output. So this is for the first group, or group 1, this is their numbers. So in group 1 we had both the high and the low in group 1, but the quickest way to check and see that there's a difference is look at the mean. So the mean for group 1 is 54.83 versus the mean for all 12 cases was 57.83. So you know you've done it correctly. Now we want to do it one more time because we still don't have the means for group 2. So we're going to minimize this window. We're going to go back, copy and paste this again, paste, and then all we need to do is type in 2, because that's the only change that we've got, highlight it, and run. Alright, we maximize our output window. So again, we have 6 cases. The range is 22, so clearly different from our first group. The low value, or the minimum, was 45 versus 34. Then the high was 67 versus 87. And the mean, though, was actually higher in this group. So even though they had a higher maximum value, the average score was much higher, was 6 points, roughly 6 points higher in this group than it was in the other group. So that's a basic introduction on how to use syntax within SPSS. At this point, you'd want to go in and make sure to save all of your files. I usually make sure to have my last name, the date, and any sort of notes that I need to, I will make sure to go and put them in. You can also edit in your output to make sure that there's a title that you know. So we'll, like with this one, we'll go ahead and put the same thing, EPSY, and didn't be capital, EPSY 6010, and we want 09-03-16. So I now have the class that I'm doing this for, the date that I did this, and I have my outputs. And I would just go into here, File, Save As. And then one of the last things I guess it's important to point out is that your output files will be SPV with the suffix, versus, we'll cancel out of this, we'll go down to this file, versus when you go to Save As, for your actual data file, your data file will be an SAV or save. That's what, you know that those are data sets if that's the suffix. And then lastly, cancel. Your syntax, when you go to File and Save As, will be SPS. So that way you know very quickly, it doesn't matter when you're looking at those files, you don't have to see the front end, the title of the file, to be able to see what type of file is in that. Is it an output, is it data, or is it a syntax file? Alright, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.